The dream that became a nightmare. Isabella Martinez stood on the balcony of the luxury beachfront suite, watching the Caribbean sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. Just 24 hours ago, she had walked down the aisle in her dream wedding dress, saying yes to Ethan Walsh in front of 200 guests. Everything had been perfect. The flowers were white roses, just like she wanted. The cake was 5 tiers of vanilla and strawberry. Her mother, Sophia, had cried tears of joy. Even the weather had cooperated, giving them a sunny autumn day that felt like a blessing. Now, as the tropical breeze played with her hair, Isabella felt like she was living in someone else's nightmare. The honeymoon suite at the Paradise Cove Resort was exactly what they had planned together. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. The king-sized bed had silk sheets. A private pool sparkled on their terrace. Everything was designed for romance, for new beginnings, for happiness. But happiness felt like a cruel joke now. The moment everything changed. It had started so innocently. Ethan had jumped in the shower after their swim in the ocean, laughing about how the salt water made his hair sticky. He left his phone on the nightstand, something he never did. Ethan guarded that phone like it held government secrets. Isabella had noticed this habit over their 2 years of dating, but she trusted him. She had never been the jealous type, never the woman who checked phones or demanded passwords. But when the phone lit up with a notification, Isabella's heart knew something before her mind did. The name on the screen was Victoria, followed by a heart emoji. The preview message made her blood run cold. "Miss you already, baby. This weekend without you feels like forever. Hurry back to me." Isabella's hands trembled as she picked up the phone. Her thumb hovered over the screen. Part of her wanted to put it down, to pretend she had not seen anything, to preserve the illusion of her perfect marriage. But something stronger pushed her forward. She needed to know the truth, even if it destroyed her. The conversation thread opened, and with it, Isabella's world crumbled. Weeks of messages scrolled before her eyes. Intimate photos. Love confessions. Plans for secret meetings. But the worst message was sent by Ethan just 3 hours before their wedding ceremony. "Don't worry, babe. This marriage is just for show. My family expects it. Give me a few months, and I will figure out how to end it. You are the one I really love." Confronting the stranger she married. The shower stopped running. Isabella heard the bathroom door open, but she could not move. She sat frozen on the bed, Ethan's phone clutched in her hands, tears streaming down her face in silence. When Ethan walked out with a towel around his waist, humming a cheerful tune, he looked like the man she thought she knew. Handsome, charming, with that easy smile that had first attracted her at the coffee shop 2 years ago. But when his eyes landed on her face, then dropped to the phone in her hands, his expression shifted. The smile vanished. His jaw tightened. But Isabella did not see guilt or shame in his eyes. She saw annoyance, like she was a child who had found his hidden candy stash. "Why are you going through my private messages, Isabella?" His voice was cold, accusatory, turning the situation around as if she was the one who had done something wrong. "Who is Victoria?" Isabella's voice came out as a whisper, broken and small. "Ethan, we got married yesterday. We said vows. I promised to love you forever, and you promised the same. Was it all a lie?" Ethan sighed, a long, dramatic exhale that made Isabella feel like she was overreacting to something trivial. He grabbed his clothes and started dressing with his back to her. "Look, Isabella, you are making this into a bigger deal than it needs to be. So I have a friend." "So what? We are married now. That is what matters. Victoria understands that. She knows her place." "Her place?" Isabella stood up, her legs shaking. "You told her our marriage was for show. You said you would end it in a few months. That means I am the one who does not know her place." I am the fake wife. Ethan turned around, buttoning his shirt with quick, irritated movements. Don't be dramatic. I married you, didn't I? I am here on this expensive honeymoon with you. You have what you wanted. A wedding, a husband, a nice life. Why do you have to ruin everything by being paranoid? The words hit Isabella like physical blows. He was gaslighting her, making her doubt her own reality, painting her as the problem. This man, who had betrayed her before their marriage was even 24 hours old, was acting like she was the unreasonable one. The worst part was that a small voice in Isabella's head almost believed him. Maybe she was overreacting. Maybe this was normal. Maybe she should just accept it and move on. But then she remembered her mother's words on the wedding day. Sophia had held Isabella's hands and said, "Marriage is about respect, my darling. Never accept less than you deserve. Never let anyone make you feel small." And right now, standing in this luxury suite with this stranger wearing her husband's face, Isabella felt smaller than she ever had in her life. The breaking point. "I need some air," Isabella managed to say, her voice barely audible. She grabbed her phone and walked quickly to the bathroom, locking the door behind her. The moment the lock clicked, her knees gave out. She slid down the marble wall, landing on the cold tile floor. The sobs came hard and fast, tearing through her chest like they might break her ribs. This was supposed to be the happiest time of her life. She had spent a year planning this wedding. She had chosen every detail with love and care. She had written her vows by hand, meaning every word. She had believed in fairy tales, in true love, in forever. And it had all been a cruel theater performance where only she did not know she was acting. Isabella pulled out her phone with shaking hands. She needed Charlotte. Her best friend would know what to do. Charlotte had always been her voice of reason, her protector, her sister in all but blood. Through blurry tears, Isabella opened her messaging app and pressed the voice record button. "Charlotte," she sobbed into the phone, her voice breaking with each word. "He cheated on me. Before the wedding. During our engagement. He told another woman that marrying me was just for show. He said I was just temporary. I found all the messages. He does not even care. He is acting like I am crazy for being upset. I do not know what to do. I feel so stupid. So humiliated. Please help me. I cannot breathe. I cannot think. What do I do?" She pressed send, watching the blue message bubble appear on her screen. Then she waited for Charlotte to see it, to respond, to tell her everything would be okay. But as her vision cleared from the tears, Isabella's heart stopped completely. The name at the top of the conversation was not Charlotte Hayes. It was Alexander Stone. Her boss. The CEO of Sterling Tech Industries. The man who had hired her a year ago and barely spoke to her except in professional settings. The intimidating, powerful, mysterious billionaire who now had just listened to her most vulnerable, broken moment. The two checkmarks turned blue. Read. He had heard everything. Isabella stared at the screen in absolute horror, her heartbreak momentarily forgotten in the face of this new catastrophe. She had just sent a crying, desperate voice message about her failed marriage to the most important and untouchable man in her professional life. The shame was so overwhelming that she thought she might actually faint. She pressed her hand over her mouth to stop the scream that wanted to escape. How could she have been so careless? How could she have made such a terrible mistake? Now Ethan had destroyed her personal life, and she had just destroyed her professional life with one accidental message. The bathroom suddenly felt too small, the walls closing in. Isabella's phone remained silent. No response from Alexander Stone. Just the painful evidence of her message, sitting there in the chat, a permanent reminder of her humiliation. She had never felt so alone, so mortified, so completely broken. And the worst part was knowing that when this nightmare honeymoon ended, she would have to face him, escape from paradise. Isabella did not sleep that night. She sat in the bathroom until the marble floor made her body ache, staring at her phone screen, willing Alexander Stone's name to disappear from her recent messages. It did not. The evidence of her humiliation remained, glowing in the darkness like a neon sign announcing her failure. When dawn finally broke through the bathroom window, painting soft gold streaks across the white tiles, Isabella made her decision. She could not stay in this suite, on this island, in this fake honeymoon for one more hour. The woman who had walked into this resort 2 days ago believing in love and forever was gone. In her place was someone harder, someone who had learned in the cruelest way possible that fairy tales were just stories people told to make reality hurt less. She unlocked the bathroom door quietly. Ethan was asleep in the massive bed, sprawled across the silk sheets without a care in the world. He looked peaceful, handsome even, with the morning light touching his face. Isabella felt nothing as she looked at him. The love she thought she had was revealed to be nothing more than illusion, and illusions disappeared when you finally saw them clearly. Moving with silent efficiency, Isabella pulled her suitcase from the closet. She packed her clothes with mechanical precision, folding nothing, caring about nothing except getting away. Her wedding dress still hung in the garment bag, pristine white lace mocking her. She left it there. Let the hotel keep it. Let them burn it. She never wanted to see it again. The wedding ring sat on the nightstand, 2 gold bands that had meant everything 48 hours ago and meant nothing now. Isabella took hers off, feeling the strange lightness of her bare finger. She placed both rings on Ethan's pillow, right next to his sleeping face. Let him explain that to Victoria. Let him figure out what story to tell his family and friends. She was done being part of his performance. The journey home. The hotel receptionist looked confused when Isabella appeared at the front desk at 6 in the morning, dressed for travel, pulling her suitcase behind her. "Mrs. Walsh? Is everything all right? Can we help you with something?" Mrs. Walsh. The name felt like a costume she was desperate to remove. "I need to check out. Just me. And I need a taxi to the airport immediately." The young woman behind the desk glanced at the computer screen, then back at Isabella's face. Professional training fought with obvious curiosity. "Of course. Let me arrange that for you right away." Isabella paid for the taxi with her emergency credit card, the one her mother had insisted she keep separate from everything else. Just in case, Sophia had said. You never know when you might need an escape route. Her mother had meant it as a joke, but now Isabella silently thanked her for that wisdom. The taxi ride to the airport felt surreal. The island was waking up, locals heading to work, tourists starting their vacation days. Everyone looked normal, happy, unburdened. Isabella watched them through the window like she was observing life from behind glass, separated from the ordinary world by her extraordinary pain. At the airport, she bought a ticket on the first flight heading anywhere near home. It had 2 connections and would take 14 hours total, but Isabella did not care. Every minute on this island felt like drowning. The flight attendant smiled at her, asking if she was traveling for business or pleasure. Isabella almost laughed at the question. What category did escaping your honeymoon fall under? During the long flights and endless layovers, Isabella kept her phone off. She could not face the messages that were certainly piling up. Ethan would have woken up by now, seen the rings, realized she was gone. He was probably furious, probably calling and texting, probably worried about how this would look to everyone. Charlotte was probably panicking, wondering why Isabella had gone silent. And Alexander Stone, her CEO, was probably drafting her termination letter for unprofessional conduct. Coming home to safety. When the taxi finally pulled up to her childhood home in the quiet suburban neighborhood, it was after midnight. The small 2-story house with its neat garden and painted shutters looked exactly the same as it always had. Isabella had lived here until she moved out for college, and even though she had her own apartment now, this place still felt like the only real home she had ever known. Her mother must have been watching from the window because the front door opened before Isabella could even ring the bell. Sophia stood there in her bathrobe, her graying hair loose around her shoulders, her face full of maternal concern that needed no explanation. "Baby girl," Sophia said softly, and that was all it took. Isabella dropped her suitcase and collapsed into her mother's arms, crying with the abandon of a child who knows she is finally safe. Sophia held her tight, one hand stroking her hair, making soft comforting sounds that had soothed every hurt from scraped knees to broken teenage hearts. Inside, Sophia guided Isabella to the familiar couch, the same one where they had watched countless movies and had endless conversations. She made chamomile tea, just like she always did during family crises. Isabella wrapped her hands around the warm mug and told her mother everything. The messages, Ethan's cruel dismissal of her feelings, the comment about their marriage being for show, the escape from the island. Sophia listened without interrupting, her face growing harder with each detail. When Isabella finished, her mother set down her own tea with controlled precision. "That man is not worthy of your tears, Isabella. Not one single tear. You did exactly the right thing by leaving. Staying would have cost you your self-respect, and that is something no marriage is worth." "But everyone will think I am crazy," Isabella whispered. "We just got married. People will say I gave up too quickly, that I should have tried to work it out." "Let them say whatever they want," Sophia replied firmly. "You know the truth. I know the truth. That is enough. People who judge you for refusing to accept betrayal are people whose opinions don't matter anyway. You protected yourself, my darling. That takes more strength than most people ever have to show." Facing the professional disaster. Isabella spent 3 days hiding in her childhood bedroom, unable to face the world. Her phone remained off, a ticking time bomb of messages she was not ready to confront. Charlotte called the house phone, frantic with worry, and Sophia explained briefly that Isabella was safe but needed space. Charlotte, loyal friend that she was, understood and promised to wait until Isabella was ready to talk. But by the 4th day, reality could not be avoided any longer. Isabella had to go back to work on Monday. Her vacation time for the wedding and honeymoon was over. More terrifyingly, she had to face Alexander Stone and the consequences of that awful accidental message. Sunday night, Isabella finally turned on her phone. The notifications exploded across her screen like fireworks. 47 missed calls from Ethan. 23 text messages from him ranging from angry to pleading. 15 messages from Charlotte. Several from concerned co-workers who had heard rumors. And nothing from Alexander Stone. That silence somehow felt worse than any message could have been. She read Ethan's messages with detached curiosity, like examining artifacts from someone else's life. He was angry she had embarrassed him. He demanded she come back and fix this mess. He called her immature and dramatic. Not once did he apologize for the cheating. Not once did he take responsibility. Isabella deleted every message without responding and blocked his number. That chapter was over. The Monday morning of reckoning. Monday morning arrived with cruel brightness. Isabella dressed in her most professional outfit, a navy blue suit that felt like armor. She pulled her dark hair into a tight bun and applied makeup carefully to hide the evidence of her crying. Looking in the mirror, she saw a woman who appeared calm and competent. Inside, her stomach twisted with anxiety. Sterling Tech Industries occupied the top 15 floors of the glass tower in the city center. Isabella had been so proud when she got this job a year ago as a marketing coordinator. Alexander Stone's company was revolutionary in the tech world, and working here had felt like winning a lottery. Now, as she rode the elevator up to the 12th floor where her department worked, she felt like she was rising toward her own execution. Her co-workers greeted her normally, thank goodness. Either they had not heard about her marriage disaster, or they were too polite to mention it. Isabella settled at her desk, trying to focus on her computer screen, trying to pretend this was a normal Monday. But her hands shook as she typed her password. The email notification appeared at exactly 9:30. From Alexander Stone. Subject line, meeting request. Isabella's heart stopped. This was it. The firing she had been expecting. She clicked the email with trembling fingers. Miss Martinez, please come to my office at your earliest convenience. Grace will be expecting you. Short, professional, revealing nothing. Isabella stood on shaking legs and made the long walk to the executive elevator that would take her to the top floor where the CEO's office resided. Grace Thompson, Alexander's executive assistant, greeted her with a kind smile that somehow made everything worse. Kindness before execution felt especially cruel. The meeting that changed everything. Grace knocked once on the heavy oak door before opening it. Miss Martinez is here, sir. Send her in. Alexander's voice was deep and calm, impossible to read. Isabella stepped into the massive corner office and felt her courage nearly fail her. The room was all clean lines and modern elegance, with floor-to-ceiling windows showing the city spread out below like a kingdom. Alexander stood by the windows with his back to her, his tall frame silhouetted against the bright sky. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Sit down, Miss Martinez, he said without turning around. Isabella perched on the edge of the leather chair facing his desk, her hands folded tightly in her lap to stop them from shaking. She wanted to apologize immediately, to beg for her job, to explain the horrible mistake. But her throat was too tight to speak. Alexander finally turned around, and Isabella forced herself to meet his eyes. She had seen him dozens of times in company meetings and presentations, but always from a distance. Up close, his presence was even more overwhelming. He was probably in his mid-30s, with dark hair styled perfectly and gray eyes that seemed to see through every defense. His face was handsome in a severe way, all strong lines and controlled expression. He sat down behind his desk and studied her for a long moment that felt like an eternity. Isabella wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor, to wake up and discover this was all a nightmare. Miss Martinez, he began, his voice even and professional. I want to clarify something before we proceed. I did not call you here to discuss your personal life. What I accidentally overheard in that message was clearly not intended for me, and I have no interest in invading your privacy. Isabella blinked, confused. That was not what she expected him to say. Alexander continued, pulling a folder from his desk drawer. However, I do need to address your immediate situation from a company standpoint. Our employee handbook includes provisions for personal crisis management. Given the circumstances, I am putting you on paid personal leave for the remainder of this week. Paid leave? Isabella's voice came out as barely a whisper. Yes. You clearly need time to handle your personal affairs. The company supports its employees during difficult transitions. He slid a business card across the desk toward her. This is Harper Collins, one of the best family law attorneys in the city. I have already spoken with her. She is expecting your call and will handle your divorce proceedings. All legal fees will be covered through the company's employee assistance program. Isabella stared at the business card like it was written in a foreign language. She had come here expecting to be fired, humiliated, dismissed. Instead, she was being given time off, resources, professional support. I don't understand. Why would you do this? Alexander's expression softened almost imperceptibly. Miss Martinez, in the year you have worked here, you have been professional, dedicated, and talented. Your marketing campaigns have significantly increased our client engagement. One personal crisis does not erase your value to this company. He paused, and something flickered in his gray eyes, something that might have been compassion. And more importantly, no one should have to face the aftermath of betrayal alone while worrying about their career. Tears sprang to Isabella's eyes before she could stop them. She had been so afraid, so certain she would lose everything, and here was this powerful man who barely knew her, offering kindness when she expected judgment. "Thank you," she managed to say, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry about the message. I was trying to text my friend Charlotte, and I wasn't thinking clearly, and I just..." Alexander held up a hand, stopping her. "We all make mistakes when we are in pain, Miss Martinez. I hold no grudge about an accidental message. What matters now is that you take the time you need to rebuild. I expect to see you back here next Monday, ready to focus on our new marketing initiative. Can you do that?" Isabella wiped her eyes quickly and nodded. "Yes, sir. I can do that." "Good." He stood, signaling the end of the meeting. "HarperCollins is excellent at what she does. Trust her guidance." "And Miss Martinez?" He looked at her directly, and for the first time, she saw genuine warmth in his usually cool expression. "What happened to you was not your fault. Remember that." Isabella left his office in a daze, clutching Harper's business card like a lifeline. Grace smiled at her as she passed, and Isabella realized that Alexander must have briefed his assistant on the situation. The kindness of it, the quiet dignity he had given her, made her throat tight with gratitude. As she rode the elevator back down, Isabella felt something shift inside her. The crushing shame and fear that had dominated the past few days began to crack, letting in something new. Hope. The terrifying man she had accidentally texted her breakdown to had turned out to be her unexpected savior. And somehow, knowing that Alexander Stone believed she was valuable enough to support made her start to believe it herself, taking back control. Isabella called HarperCollins from her mother's living room that same afternoon. The attorney's voice was warm but efficient, the kind of voice that made you feel like your problems were already halfway solved. They scheduled a meeting for the next morning, and Harper assured her that with the evidence Isabella had photographed from Ethan's phone, the divorce would be straightforward and quick. In cases of clear infidelity with documented proof, judges tend to be very accommodating, Harper explained. "We can file for divorce based on adultery, which in this state means we can expedite the process. You could be legally single again in as little as 3 months." 3 months. Isabella had thought she would spend the rest of her life with Ethan. Now that lifetime had been reduced to a 90-day waiting period. The irony was not lost on her. But instead of feeling sad, Isabella felt relieved. Every day she stayed legally tied to him felt like wearing chains she was desperate to remove. Charlotte finally came over that evening, bursting through the door with takeout food, wine, and fierce protective energy. "I swear to everything holy, Isabella, if you ever scare me like that again, I will kill you myself," she said, pulling Isabella into a crushing hug. "When your mom said you left the honeymoon early, I thought you had been kidnapped or murdered or both." Over Chinese food and cheap wine on Sophia's back porch, Isabella told Charlotte everything. Her best friend listened with increasingly murderous expressions, occasionally muttering creative threats against Ethan that made even Sophia laugh despite the serious situation. "That absolute garbage human," Charlotte fumed, stabbing her chopsticks into her low mane with unnecessary force. "He deserves to step on Legos barefoot every day for the rest of his miserable life. He deserves to have every red light, every slow internet connection, every cold shower. He deserves nothing from me," Isabella interrupted quietly. "Not my anger, not my energy, not even my hatred. I'm done giving him pieces of myself." Charlotte studied her friend's face, then nodded slowly. "Look at you, being all mature and healthy about this. I'm impressed. Also slightly disappointed because I had 17 more curses prepared, but I'm mostly impressed." "Save them for later," Isabella said with a small smile. "I might need them during the divorce proceedings." The divorce process begins. Meeting with HarperCollins the next day felt like the first real step toward freedom. The attorney's office was located in a sleek downtown building, all glass and steel and quiet efficiency. Harper herself was a woman in her early 40s with sharp eyes and an even sharper suit, who made Isabella feel instantly at ease. "I've reviewed the photographs you emailed me of the text messages," Harper said, spreading the printed evidence across her mahogany desk. "This is extremely clear-cut. Your husband was engaged in an extramarital affair before, during, and after your wedding ceremony. The messages explicitly state his intention to treat the marriage as temporary. This gives us enormous leverage." Isabella stared at the printed conversations between Ethan and Victoria. Seeing them on paper somehow made them more real and less painful at the same time. "What happens now?" "Now we file. I'll draft the divorce petition citing adultery as grounds. We'll request that Ethan cover all legal fees as the offending party. Given his family's wealth and the clear evidence of his fault, most judges would grant that request. We'll also ensure you're protected from any financial retaliation." "Do you have joint accounts?" "We opened one after the engagement," Isabella admitted. "For wedding expenses and future shared bills. There's about $15,000 in it from wedding gifts." Harper made a note. "We'll freeze that account immediately and request the funds be split. The wedding gifts were given to both of you as a couple, so you're entitled to half regardless of fault. Do you have any shared property? Cars? Real estate?" "No. We were going to look for a house after the honeymoon." The word honeymoon tasted bitter in Isabella's mouth. "I still have my own apartment. The lease is in my name only. He was going to move in after we got back." "Perfect. That makes things cleaner." Harper looked up from her legal pad with an expression of genuine kindness. "Isabella, I want you to understand something. This process might get ugly. Ethan will likely be angry that you're the one filing. Men like him, who are used to controlling the narrative, don't handle losing control well. He may try to contact you, pressure you, or paint himself as the victim. I need you to promise me you won't engage with him directly. All communication goes through me now." Isabella nodded, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. Having someone else handle Ethan felt like being given permission to finally stop fighting. "I can do that." "Good. I'll have the papers filed by Friday. He'll be served by Monday." "And Isabella?" Harper's smile was almost predatory. "I'm very good at my job. By the time we're done, Ethan Walsh is going to regret ever underestimating you. Professional growth and new beginnings." The week of personal leave passed in a blur of legal meetings, emotional processing, and slowly rebuilding her sense of self. Sophia proved to be an invaluable support system, knowing exactly when Isabella needed company and when she needed solitude. Charlotte visited every evening, bringing food and friendship and much-needed laughter. By Sunday night, Isabella felt different. Not healed, not whole, but stronger. The crushing shame had transformed into something cleaner, something that felt almost like pride. She had protected herself. She had refused to accept crumbs of respect from someone who had treated her like she was disposable. That took courage, and Isabella was finally beginning to recognize her own bravery. Monday morning, she returned to Sterling Tech with her head held high. The navy suit was back, the armor she had learned to wear well. But this time, she did not feel like she was walking toward an execution. She felt like she was walking toward her future. Amelia Chen, her colleague in the marketing department, greeted her with a warm smile and a coffee. "Welcome back, Isabella. We missed you last week. Everything okay?" "Getting there," Isabella replied honestly. "Thanks for the coffee." The morning passed in productive work. Isabella threw herself into the new marketing campaign Alexander had mentioned, the big initiative he wanted her focused on. It felt good to concentrate on something that had nothing to do with failed marriages or legal proceedings. She was reviewing demographic data when her office phone rang. "Miss Martinez, this is Grace from Mr. Stone's office. He would like to see you at 2 o'clock if you're available. Isabella's heart did a strange little jump. Of course. I'll be there. She spent the intervening hours trying not to overthink the meeting. Was it about the marketing campaign? About her personal situation? Had he changed his mind about supporting her? By the time 2 o'clock arrived, Isabella had worked herself into a state of nervous anticipation that felt oddly similar to the anxiety from last week, but different somehow. Less about fear of judgment and more about something she could not quite name. An unexpected connection. Grace greeted her with that same kind smile and ushered her into Alexander's office. He was seated at his desk this time, reviewing documents, and looked up when she entered. Isabella was struck again by how intense his presence was, how those gray eyes seemed to see everything. "Miss Martinez, thank you for coming. Please, sit." He gestured to the chair across from him, and Isabella settled into it with much more composure than she had possessed during their last meeting. "I wanted to check in on how you're doing. I trust Harper has been helpful?" "Very helpful," Isabella confirmed. "The divorce papers were filed on Friday. Everything is moving forward." "Good." Alexander set down his pen and gave her his full attention. "I also wanted to discuss your role in our new marketing initiative. I've been reviewing your past campaigns, and I'm impressed with your strategic thinking. The client retention rates improved by 34% after your last major push." Isabella felt warmth spread through her chest, the unfamiliar but welcome feeling of professional recognition. "Thank you, sir. I worked hard on those campaigns. It shows. Which is why I want you to take the lead on our upcoming product launch. We're releasing a new software platform in 6 months, and I want you heading the entire marketing strategy." He slid a folder across the desk. "This would mean a promotion to senior marketing director, a substantial salary increase, and direct collaboration with the executive team. Including me." Isabella opened the folder with shaking hands, scanning the job description and the salary figure that made her eyes widen. This was not just a promotion. This was a complete career transformation. "Mr. Stone, I don't know what to say. This is incredible." "You've earned it," he said simply. "Your personal situation has no bearing on this decision. I chose you because you're the best person for the job. However, I want to make sure you're ready for this level of responsibility right now. It will be demanding. If you need more time to settle your personal affairs first, I can postpone the official promotion." Isabella looked at the job description again, then back at Alexander. Something clicked into place in her mind. This was what taking control of her life looked like. This was what choosing herself meant. "I don't need more time, Mr. Stone. I'm ready now." A smile touched the corner of his mouth, so brief she almost missed it. "I was hoping you'd say that. Welcome to the executive team, Miss Martinez. We have a lot of work ahead of us." Alexander's hidden depth. Over the following weeks, Isabella discovered that working closely with Alexander Stone was nothing like she had imagined. From a distance, he had seemed cold, intimidating, unreachable. Up close, he was something else entirely. He was still reserved, still serious, but there was a dry humor beneath the professional exterior that surprised her. There was also a thoughtfulness in how he led his team, a genuine care for his employees that went far beyond corporate obligation. During their strategy meetings, Alexander listened to her ideas with complete attention, never dismissing her input, often building on her suggestions in ways that made them even stronger. He treated her as an equal intellectual partner, something Ethan had never done. Ethan had always made her feel like her thoughts were cute but ultimately unimportant. Alexander made her feel brilliant. One evening, working late on campaign materials, Isabella made a comment about needing more coffee to survive the deadline. Alexander had disappeared without a word, returning 15 minutes later with 2 cups from the expensive cafe 3 blocks away. "You didn't have to do that," Isabella said, surprised by the gesture. "The office coffee is terrible," Alexander replied, settling back into his chair. No one should have to suffer through it during overtime. It was a small thing, but it struck Isabella how different it felt from anything Ethan had done. Ethan had made grand romantic gestures that looked good on social media. Alexander made quiet, practical gestures that actually improved her day. She found herself noticing these moments more and more. The way he remembered she preferred her documents printed rather than digital. The way he defended her ideas in meetings with board members. The way he had restructured her project timeline when he noticed she had taken on too much. One afternoon, Harper called with news. Ethan signed the settlement agreement. He's not contesting anything. You'll be officially divorced in 8 weeks. Isabella hung up and sat at her desk, processing the information. She had expected to feel relieved, maybe even celebratory. Instead, she felt oddly neutral, like receiving news about a stranger. Ethan had become so irrelevant to her life that even his agreement to end their marriage barely registered as significant. The walls come down. It was during a late strategy session 3 months after her return that something shifted between Isabella and Alexander. They were alone in the conference room, surrounded by marketing materials and empty coffee cups, arguing good-naturedly about the campaign's visual direction. The blue color scheme is too cold, Isabella insisted, pulling up examples on her laptop. We want people to feel welcomed by the technology, not intimidated by it. The blue conveys professionalism and trustworthiness, Alexander countered, but she noticed he was smiling slightly, enjoying the debate. Those are crucial for enterprise software. Warm gray conveys professionalism and trustworthiness, Isabella shot back. Blue conveys, I'm a corporation that doesn't care about you as a human being. Alexander laughed, an actual full laugh that transformed his entire face. Isabella realized with a start that she had never heard him laugh like that before, unguarded and genuine. You're relentless when you believe in something. It's one of your best qualities. The compliment caught her off guard, and something in his tone made her look up from her laptop. He was watching her with an expression she had not seen before, something softer than professional respect but carefully controlled. Thank you, she said quietly, suddenly very aware that they were alone in the building, that it was nearly 10 at night, that the city lights outside the windows made everything feel somehow more intimate. Alexander seemed to realize the same thing. He cleared his throat and stood, gathering papers with slightly less than his usual grace. We should call it a night. You've been here since 7 this morning. So have you, Isabella pointed out, standing as well. They walked to the elevator together in comfortable silence. When the doors opened on the parking garage level, Alexander hesitated before getting out. Isabella, may I ask you something personal? Her heart rate picked up. Of course. Are you all right? I mean truly all right, after everything with your ex-husband. You've been so focused on work, so professional. I've been impressed, but I also want to make sure you're not just burying yourself in the job to avoid processing. The question was so unexpected, so genuinely concerned, that Isabella felt her careful professional walls crack slightly. I'm better than I was, she admitted. Some days are harder than others. But honestly, throwing myself into this project has helped. It reminds me that I'm good at something, that I have value beyond being someone's wife. Or ex-wife, I suppose. You have immense value, Alexander said quietly, his gray eyes intense in the dim parking garage lighting. I hope you know that. What that man did, it reflects on his character, not yours. You told me that before, Isabella said, remembering their first meeting after the disaster. In your office. It helped more than you probably realize. I'm glad. He paused, and she saw him weighing his next words carefully. I accidentally heard something very painful in that voice message you sent. I want you to know I've never repeated what I heard to anyone, and I never will. Your privacy matters to me. Gratitude welled up in Isabella's chest, mixed with something warmer and more complicated. Thank you, Alexander. For everything. The attorney, the promotion, the respect. You didn't have to do any of it. Yes, I did, he said simply. It was the right thing to do. He smiled, and there was something in that smile that made Isabella's breath catch. Good night, Isabella. Drive safely. Good night, she managed, watching him walk to his car, a sleek black vehicle that suited him perfectly. As Isabella drove home through the quiet city streets, she realized with a start that she was smiling. Not because of the successful workday or the campaign progress, but because of him. Alexander Stone, the intimidating CEO who had turned out to be kind and supportive and funny and thoughtful. The man who had seen her at her absolute lowest and had chosen to lift her up instead of judging her. A new chapter begins. The divorce was finalized on a rainy Tuesday in November. Isabella stood in the courthouse with Harper by her side, signed the papers, and walked out a single woman. Ethan had not even shown up, sending his lawyer instead, which felt appropriately symbolic. He was absent even at the ending of what he had destroyed. Charlotte took her out for celebratory drinks that night. To freedom, she toasted, raising her glass. And to never settling for less than you deserve again. To new beginnings, Isabella added, clinking her glass against Charlotte's. The next day at work, Isabella found a small package on her desk. Inside was a beautiful leather-bound journal and a note in elegant handwriting. For your next chapter. May it be everything you deserve. A.S. Isabella traced the initials with her finger, her heart doing that strange little jump again. She had been so focused on surviving, on rebuilding, that she had not let herself acknowledge what was growing between them. But sitting there with his thoughtful gift in her hands, she could not deny it anymore. She was falling for Alexander Stone. Not the boss, not the CEO, but the man beneath the professional exterior. The man who brought her good coffee and remembered her preferences. The man who had supported her through her darkest time without asking for anything in return. The man who made her feel valued and respected and seen in ways she had never experienced before. It terrified her. She had just escaped one relationship disaster. The last thing she should be doing was developing feelings for her boss. But her heart, apparently, had not received that memo. Every meeting with Alexander felt charged with something unspoken. Every accidental brush of hands when exchanging documents sent electricity through her skin. Every time he smiled at her, really smiled, she felt like she was discovering something precious and rare. Isabella opened the journal and wrote on the first page, Chapter 1, The Woman Who Learned She Was Worth More Than She Had Ever Imagined. The confession. The product launch was scheduled for late January, and the weeks leading up to it were intense. Isabella worked closely with Alexander almost daily, their professional partnership seamless and effective. But beneath the work discussions, beneath the marketing strategies and campaign adjustments, something else was building. Lingering glances. Conversations that stretched beyond professional necessity. Moments of shared laughter that felt intimate despite the office setting. It was Alexander who finally acknowledged it. They were in his office late one Friday evening, reviewing final launch materials, when he set down his pen and looked at her directly. Isabella, I need to tell you something, and I need you to know you have no obligation to respond in any particular way. Your job is not contingent on how you feel about what I'm about to say. Her heart began to race. Okay. He took a breath, and she realized this controlled, composed man was actually nervous. I have developed feelings for you. Feelings that go beyond professional respect or friendship. I've tried to ignore them, to maintain appropriate boundaries, but I can't continue pretending they don't exist. Isabella felt her breath catch, hope and fear mixing in her chest. Alexander. I know the timing is terrible, he continued. You've just come through a divorce. I'm your boss, which creates a power dynamic issue. We've only been working closely for a few months. Every logical reason says this is a terrible idea. He paused, his gray eyes searching her face. But I've never felt this way about anyone, Isabella. You're brilliant and strong and kind. You make me laugh. You challenge me. And I look forward to seeing you every single day in a way that has nothing to do with work. Isabella stood from her chair and walked around his desk, her heart pounding. Alexander stood as well, watching her with careful hope. "Can I tell you something?" she asked softly. "Anything. That accidental voice message I sent you? It was the worst moment of my life at the time. I was so ashamed, so sure you would judge me or fire me or think I was pathetic." She smiled, feeling tears prick her eyes, but happy tears this time. "Instead, you showed me what real support looks like. What real respect looks like. You helped me remember my own worth when I had forgotten it completely. And somewhere along the way, I started falling for you too." The hope in Alexander's eyes transformed into something brilliant and warm. "You did?" "Completely." Isabella laughed, slightly giddy with the confession. "Which scared me because I swore I was done with relationships forever. But you're nothing like what I ran from. You're everything I didn't know I needed." Alexander reached for her hand slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. His fingers threaded through hers, warm and sure. "I want to do this right, Isabella. No rushing, no pressure. I want to take you to dinner, real dates where we're not discussing marketing strategies. I want to get to know every part of you, not just the professional side. And I want you to feel absolutely certain that choosing me, or not choosing me, won't affect your career here in any way." "I choose you," Isabella said simply. "If you're willing to be patient with me while I figure out how to trust again, I choose you." Alexander smiled, that rare unguarded smile that transformed his whole face. "I'll be as patient as you need. We have time, Isabella. All the time in the world." He pulled her gently into his arms, and Isabella rested her head against his chest, hearing the steady beat of his heart. She thought about the woman who had sat crying on that bathroom floor months ago, broken and humiliated and sure her life was over. That woman could never have imagined standing here, held by someone who truly valued her, looking forward to a future that felt full of possibility. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best transformations. Sometimes accidental messages sent to the wrong person turn out to be exactly right. And sometimes, Isabella thought as Alexander pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, fairy tales do exist, but they don't look anything like what we expected. They look like quiet support during crises. They look like late-night coffee runs and thoughtful gifts. They look like someone who sees you at your worst and chooses to help you become your best. "Thank you," she whispered against his chest. "For what?" Alexander asked softly. "For seeing me. Really seeing me." His arms tightened around her. "Always, Isabella. Always." Outside the office windows, the city lights sparkled like stars, and for the first time since that horrible day on her honeymoon, Isabella felt truly happy. Not the performative happiness of a perfect wedding or a luxury resort, but real joy, built on honest foundations with someone who respected her completely. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, probably Charlotte checking in on her. Isabella smiled, thinking about how much she had to tell her best friend. But that could wait. Right now, in this moment, she just wanted to stand here in Alexander's arms and appreciate how far she had come. From the ashes of her worst heartbreak, Isabella had built something beautiful. A successful career. Self-respect. Real love. And most importantly, the unshakable knowledge that she was worth all of it. The end. Epilogue. 6 months later, Isabella and Alexander stood on the balcony of his penthouse apartment, watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold and pink. The product launch had been wildly successful, exceeding all projections. Isabella's marketing campaign had won industry awards. And their relationship had grown steadily stronger, built on mutual respect, honest communication, and genuine partnership. Happy? Alexander asked, his arm around her waist. Isabella leaned into him, thinking about how different this sunset felt from that one in the Caribbean. No lies, no betrayal, no performance. Just authentic happiness with someone who cherished her. Incredibly happy. Good, he said, turning her to face him with a smile that still made her heart skip. Because I plan to keep making you happy for a very long time, Isabella Martinez. She kissed him, tasting future promises and present joy. I'm counting on it, Alexander Stone. And as the sun set over their city, Isabella silently thanked her past self for having the courage to leave, to fight, to believe she deserved more. That brave woman had given her this beautiful life. And Isabella intended to live it fully, surrounded by real love, real respect, and real happiness. Sometimes wrong numbers lead to right destinations. And sometimes the worst day of your life is actually the first day of your best life. You just have to be brave enough to walk through the pain to reach the joy on the other side.